Myron Swiston here, and I want to continue with the Regina 5 extending member, abstract art, and some issues on consciousness. Otto Rogers, that I mentioned before, is outside of the Regina 5, and I asked the question why he didn't join that group. I don't know, I haven't found the answer, because he's in the same time frame at the university, Saskatchewan. He would have been within these guys' grasp, as you might say, but Otto Rogers has really stayed on his own. It's tonal painting. I just want to come back. It's tonal painting, not unlike Mark Rothko. So it's the landscape, prairie landscape. It's a very flat shaped design. He stayed fairly consistent throughout with this work, even to today. He's still alive and working. He did leave Canada for a short time, went to Israel, came back. But his work has really contained itself within a tonal realm and color and tones of those colors. The issue is not with light, it is with tones. So that's a kind of look at Rogers, and he's back from the prairies, back in Ontario, painting. But there's some kind of things which are very important. It's consciousness, and as this consciousness of 6 billion people that are in the world today, artists now have the freedom to do the kind of work that they would like to do. Abstract art, abstract painters, contemporary painters, have the chance to connect with all the previous art that has gone on. And our lineage is with this previous art that has gone on, back to Altamira, Lascaux, the mark making, perhaps to Mpumalanga. So this is significant in terms of our history, which brings us to today, which is our humanity. And our humanity then means that this common urn of what we are, we as artists have to deposit something into this common urn so that we contribute and lower the entropy of ourselves, but also lower the entropy of the society in which we live. So our demands that we have an imperative to oneself, imperative to one society, but the imperative is to humanity. And by giving, by offering, we open ourselves, in a sense, if our hand is open, we give what we have, but also our hands are open then, and maybe perhaps somebody will put something in our hands, in our heart, our minds, and what we are. So our contribution is going around and around. And so that is really lowering our entropy by continuing to put something into our humanity. The mark making that Robert Motherwell has been doing for quite some time in abstract expressionist found itself, of course, with Gorky, with Franz Klein, his calligraphy, Robert Motherwell's calligraphy, his mark making, his language, his iconography. Today, then, our language has to be this visual awareness and give back, in some terms, this visual awareness. The hurdles are inside here, are in us. The hurdles are inside of us. They seem to be solid, but they're not solid. We can go under these hurdles, obstacles to our growth, obstacles that get in the way, perhaps, and maybe they're there for our learning. Most likely, they're there for our learning so that we become less concretized, less constipated, more open, more vulnerable. So if we have our hand out, if we give some kind of love, if we give some kind of extension, then maybe that love will come back and deposit itself in our hands. Overall, if our hand is like this, like a fist, if it's aggression, which is easy to do, it's easy to lash out, then no one is going to put anything in our hand because our fist is closed. And so the buck stops really here. It doesn't, there's no further extension on giving and receiving in humanity when we do this, when we lash out. When we restrain ourselves from lashing out and hurt and maiming, we restrain ourselves, we have a conscience then, and then we have a responsibility. As we grow inside as human beings, we have a responsibility, excuse me, to ourselves, but then we have a responsibility for others as well. And in our responsibility for others through our artwork, we can be then helpfully lower the entropy again. Though, if we have this might end up here, this might end up here, and it might end up in our extremities. And so, what is the cure? This is the cure. That's the cure for constipation, whether it's here or here or here. Doing this, easy to lash out, easy to be angry. It can be at a stop sign. It could be somebody ahead of you in a line when you're waiting for things. It could be small things, and that's where we grow, is through the small things. So if we're in line and we become angry and we become volatile at the bank or at getting our coffee or getting our dry cleaning or with our spouse, with our loved ones, we're anxious with them, better perhaps to eliminate this aggression, which is aggression, with maybe some kind of listening, maybe some kind of love. All these things sound nebulous, but love sounds nebulous, but we bring it into the present, and the world will not improve without this love extension to the society in which we are in. So the painters, if I then think painters that have influenced the 20th century and is still casting his voice over the 20th century, is Edvard Munch. His cry, his scream, this total life is screaming at us to be more, to give more love. It's just screaming to be and to love and to connect and to give back everything that we've been given. And we've been given what? Our life, number one. Where did this life come from? Mom and dad. And where did their life come from? Their moms and dads, and so on. So before we came here, where were we? What kind of container were we in? Did we have any kind of container? Were we a spirit body? Were we a spirit personality? And so we arrived at a specific time and place to hide, to help humanity grow into something more. And so the imperative then is to use whatever we have and to use it in a way that's constructive. Being creative, like the recent passing of Robin Williams and Steve Bridges and other people who are in the creative industry, the being intoxicated with life and living, being intoxicated with the pure value of living and being alive. And what happens is that you try to replace that being alive with a drug, with a drink. There is no replacement for the real thing. There's no replacement. And so, yes, because we're creative, we get a view, we get a look into ourselves and others. We know the secrets that other people have. We know the lives of others. We know the stories of others. We give privilege to access to this humanity. The more responsible that we are, the more we're giving privy to this humanity that we are. But it's given, our life was given as a gift. I am me because of me. I am not me because of me. I'm me because of all the contributions of not only life and all the people that have contributed to my life in my early years, in my very formative years when I didn't know what I was doing or where I was going. Someone helped me along. The imperative is to give back as much possible in the time that we have with each other, in the time frame that we're in, the 21st century, so that we can improve everything that's inside of us, around us, our loved ones. And the responsibility then, we have a conscience, so it sits on our shoulders, right? So then we have a refrain from then lashing out, and maybe we become a better human being because we don't lash out. And for sure we're going to become better for not lashing out. My previous video, I talked about the conspiracy, and everybody keeps telling me there's some kind of conspiracies, and conspiracy to do this bad, and conspiracy to do this, and a conspiracy to do that. The conspiracy is this. As far as I'm concerned, conspiracy is to bring about enlightenment. The conspiracy is to bring about consciousness. The conspiracy is to make this world, this planet that we live on, live up together, a better place. It's easy to point out the bad. It's easy to point out what's not right, but it's much more difficult than to bring a solution. We know what's bad. Everybody knows what's bad. What is the solution? The solution, we begin on our smaller scale, so that we don't, when we're driving, maybe cut somebody off, or is anybody really further ahead than anyone else? There's no one ever further ahead than anyone else in life. Cannot be. Some maybe have more insight, perhaps, and act upon that insight, act upon their inner intelligence, but we can only be what we are at the front of humanity and the back of humanity. We are all of this, from the back to the front, to the top, to the bottom, to the sides of this humanity. It's inclusive. It cannot be excluded. There's no exclusion. There's no exclusion zone. There's only an inclusion zone. And that's all of us is the inclusion zone. There isn't any outside of this and she's better, he's better. That's not the case. Our awareness, and people tell us that we're not good and we're bad and we're doing the wrong thing and so on. Sure, we make wrong decisions. We do things. We try to get better through our wrong decisions, our error of our ways. One of the great things, United States of America, I want to come back to this because it's important. Country in the world has a constitution, a Bill of Rights of Freedom, the only country that has such a thing, 1776. The country was founded on biblical principles, which is the foundation of the nation of the United States. And maybe perhaps some people are not aware of that, but the biblical truths and way is the foundation of the United States. Of course, Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, of course, my favorite, Walt Whitman, brought about this huge container of good, of value, that they gave back to the society, that if the United States of America is going to continue to be the strong nation it is today, it must return to biblical values, or values that are of a way of life, of rule of law, of rule of constitution, to return to those values, to return to the integrity, to in turn to the foundation, to the fulcrum around which we revolve. These are important values. These are human values. They're universal values. They're not just confined to the United States of America. They're universal values. The value of the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the freedom of every individual to speak and to say and to do, to write, to create, to give voice, to think, to be, to have a way of life. And these founding fathers with the Bible and Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, of course, and many others in the beginning of the nation provided the foundation for the growth and the tremendous freedoms and liberty are found in the United States of America. E pluribus unum, out of many one. And society, if we can use that, E pluribus unum for the world, out of many comes one. And then two, and then three, and then four, and then five, and so on. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. And that's the kind of values that we have to return to. When we lose sight of these kind of values, then we begin to become fractured. We become to drift apart. And so we have society based on this fracturing. It's all fractured. There's this group and that group and this group and this self-righteousness and this groupie and that groupie and that groupie and that groupie. Whether Martin Luther King had a thing, I have a dream. And in that dream, all peoples are one. All peoples are one. He saw beyond the color and the separation and the creeds. He saw only one. Tremendous enlightenment from a human being. Just the connections that are made there so that everybody dreams. Everybody has hopes and aspirations. And so all those aspirations are in his voice. I have a dream, and that all we are one people. So all these things, the world of art is littered, whether it's in poetry, whether it's in writing, whether it's in making sculpture, whether it's in painting, whether it's in these creative acts, we're giving privy to some inner workings that are going on, that are working here and working back and forth, and that give us insights that improve the society, but that comes as a cost. The cost is this: first, you got to have the integrity. There is no replacement for anguish. There's no replacement for hurt. There's love, of course, can replace hurt, of course. Anguish, it can love, yes. But the test of being conscious, of being privy into the inner workings of how a seed grows, how the life grows, how life flows. These are privileges of the creative act. For me, in what I do, to maintain some semblance of everydayness, that the person on the back of a garbage truck, weatherman, whether a woman, on a hot summer day, on the smell of the back of a garbage truck, is in some way, has a responsibility of this family, of his loved ones. And I can understand that. And is the artist any better? The difference might be that the articulation level, the descriptive level, the giving back level might be a different thing. But there's no difference. One has a responsibility immediately to their family. And so for me to be clear-headed, to say that I'm an artist, everybody's an artist. Everybody is an artist in their own way, in their own tongue, no matter where they are. And maybe the Aboriginals in Australia were far more advanced, and they are far more advanced in ways that we know not of. Their spirit sky, their night sky, the pygmies in South America, pygmies in Southeast Asia, their connection with their society, non-mechanical, but it's integrated, and the care and love shown, all of the community share of the hunt, of the gathering, of the fruits of their labors. There's no one left out. We cannot leave out any human being. If we include the downtrodden, the people who are in wheelchairs, the people who are less, that we think perhaps are less than what we are, we have to include them. Our inclusiveness, our altruistic behavior toward others, that's really important. I'm rambling because I'm so excited. I'm excited about the state of being that people have, the opportunity, and I'm just trying to use words that perhaps are not offensive. That if I'm saying the wrong thing, sometimes my intent is not to say the wrong thing. It could be taken a wrong way, but my intent is not to say things in a hurtful manner or a destructive manner or a deprecating manner. To me, the blood flows red to everyone. And so my contribution then, in doing abstract art, my contribution, I see things beyond what my physical eye sees. And I'm not seeing with my eye, I'm seeing with my heart and mind and soul. So that's perhaps a little bit more difficult for me because it's inside. I can't see it until I do it, until it becomes experiential, becomes experience. It's pie in the sky in here. If I'm doing this, I'm just a talking head and there's nothing coming out. The proof is in the pudding. When I do a painting, I'm talking about perhaps some voyage or something that I can give back. And so when I'm not here any longer, maybe someone might say, Myron did this, and his contribution is there. And so if we think that Leonardo and Altamira, Lascaux, and Stonehenge, that's our humanity. That is the thing that makes us what we are. Our continuation of ourselves. The continuation of our species. Is at stake. So I look to the past, the 75,000 years to Mpumalanga, and all the various sites of human habitation that bring us to the present time. Our racial memory is there. All the things that have happened that are in our racial memory. And that's great because maybe perhaps someone can't contaminate them if they're in here. And they can be revealed through the process of painting. It can be revealed through the process of our thoughts. And so, abstract art is 20th century. And you've heard in my other videos, the 100 million people that have passed directly through the violence that we've done to each other. And that way is no more, no more, no more. Part of my own conspiracy is to bring enlightenment about for myself, for others, for humanity, so that then we all can be better in understanding. We can have live in the hearts and minds of each other, which is our humanity. I digressed a little bit from my usual abstract art because I thought it was an imperative to give some thoughts just on throwing color on a canvas, on a surface. May not be just enough. So the connections, time past with time present and time future, are very important. All that has gone before, all the thoughts, the words, and the deeds, the humanity, the pushing from our humanity, pushing us to better, to grow, from all the people, all the individuals who are connected, who are trying to do this. They're trying to offer and to bring about the change that we need for this 21st century. I take a deep breath. Thank you for listening. I'm going to talk to you soon. I got to continue on this abstract art because there's some other members that I have to include in this. I have to come back to Painters 11, Otto. I'm going to talk about Peter Busa in the United States, Midwest painter, which was in New York at the time as well, student of Hans Hofmann. And there are other kind of things. It doesn't unfold in a linear manner. It unfolds in how I'm connecting all this together, and I'm trying not to leave on too many stones unturned that connect to the present. Bye for now.